On today's Locked On NBA Game Night with no games, we're going to play buy or sell on title contenders, top storylines about the NBA playoffs that'll start next week, and get you set for Sunday, the final regular season day of the year. Who can move and shake across the NBA standings?
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Let's get it going on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast. I'm Rylan, Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's Gavin, Schall, host of Locked On Knicks. And Gavin, we've made it. The next time we're together will be to recap Game 1 of Round 1 of the NBA playoffs. But before that, we have an interesting game night where there was no games to recap. So we have free will to just talk about whatever NBA topics we want to. They've really let us control things here. We're going to play a game of buy or sell. We're going to play what's at stake. We're going to talk about the biggest storylines of the upcoming playoffs. But Gavin, how you feeling today before Game 82?
I'm feeling good, man. Free will. I feel like I'm in an episode of Severance. This is great. It's good to know. I'm incredibly excited, man. The last few weeks have been so fun. I don't know if you remember. Maybe it was 2014, the year where like Vince Carter hit the buzzer beater and the Mavs almost upset the Spurs. I feel like we're just gonna get like an epic playoffs this year. Like particularly the Western Conference. Like every game, every series, maybe unless it's Memphis OKC in the first round, is going to be just incredibly interesting. So I can't really remember a time I've been more excited for the playoffs to start.
Yeah, that's the craziest part about this. And I'm glad that you did say the Western Conference, because the Eastern Conference, you guys live on Easy Street over there.
Yeah, Knicks, Pistons, Pacers, Bucks, little interesting.
The middle of the bracket's fun. The middle of the bracket's fun. It's the outside parts, the 1 and 2 seeds who are not going to get tested. Not the same in the West. I do agree that if it's Memphis, OKC would be feeling good, but there's a big chance it's not Memphis in the 8th seed, which would leave OKC having to play a very, very, very competitive 8th seed in the NBA playoffs, which makes for a lot of fun games, a lot of fun content, and just an enjoyable experience for basketball fans. But Gavin, before we get into the playoffs, let's talk buy or sell, similarly tied into the playoffs. And the first one I want to hit you with is not about playoff teams, because we're going to be inundated with playoff talk for the next 3 months. And teams that won't get enough love are the tanking teams. Sorry, guys. You are all shoved to the side as we try to crown a champion. You'll pop back up in late May whenever the combine and the lottery take place. But Gavin, buy or sell, there is one team who you really want to see Cooper Flag go to.
Oh, that's a good question that I did not prepare for. So I think he would be great on the Wizards. I really like their young core. I think their defense would be insane. I think the 2-man game between him and Jordan Poole would be really exciting. Him and LaMelo is just a lot of fun. And I feel like, look, Washington, isn't it true? Washington hasn't won 50 games since like the 70s. It feels like the Hornets, since they came back as an expansion franchise, haven't had a truly great team. So those two would be my initial inclination. I live right across the street from the Suns arena. Unfortunately, there's no way they can get him. I think he would be great on the Blazers. I would really like him on the Blazers. Those are the first 3 teams that come to mind. Him being on Philly and them having like somehow a healthy Embiid and Paul George is terrifying as someone who covers the Knicks. So I don't really want that, even though I think he would obviously that is the best possible scenario for him. In all likelihood. So I'm going to go with Portland, Charlotte, him and LaMelo running fast breaks. Portland just is such a complete, fun team already. And the Wizards with their young core, I think are my 3 answers there.
Yeah, so I would buy it for me personally because I would say Washington. I think that I love what this young team has built. I like the new regime in their front office. I like their new regime on the sidelines. I think that plopping in Cooper Flag to Washington alongside the likes of Bub Carrington and Keyshawn George and Bilal Coulibaly and all these young guys would be really fun. Basketball-wise, just not any bias at all. I would actually sell this notion because of how good Cooper Flag is. Like, he'll turn any of these situations around. Like, no matter how down you are on Charlotte or how down you are on Portland or New Orleans or Utah, like, he'll make it fun, he'll make it exciting, and he'll really give you the chance to turn around the bad situation, unless you're Phoenix, who still has no out, because this is a disaster in your city right now, Gavin. But that was a little warm up to buy or sell, because the questions get harder than that starting right now. Gavin, I'm I'm going to ask you these questions. And anytime that we say buy or sell contention status, just so the listening audiences know, we're buying the possibility that they make the conference finals. We'll consider that contender because then you're only one leg away from getting to the NBA finals. So buy or sell, Milwaukee Bucks, they're still contenders. They still can go all the way to the conference finals.
Big time sell for me. I know 7-game win streak. Giannis has been as good as anyone in the NBA. I think 31, 10 or 11 rebounds, 10 assists per game over that 7-game stretch. Still some question, unless I missed something today, as to whether or not they're going to have Damian Lillard in the playoffs. Some of the tertiary pieces are playing better. Bobby Portis has been a big help since coming back. Kevin Porter Jr.'s had a nice couple of games. I do not love this team. Like I see the theory. I see that Giannis is going to be the best player in any series. I don't really see a world, even if I'm a little bit more down on Cleveland than some people, I don't see any world where they beat the Cavs. And frankly, the Pacers, who coming into the game the other night where they sat all their starters, hadn't won 14 of their last 17 games. Like I would not have them as the favorite over the Pacers. So major sell for me.
I would agree with you on the sell. I think that they could beat the Pacers. I don't think that they could beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, the number 1 seed in the East, who they'd have to go through. So we're agreeing on that front. Let's shift over to the Western Conference now. And a lot can change in the West. Matchups, sides of the bracket, everything's at stake. We'll talk about that coming up. But just on surface level, buy or sell the Denver Nuggets, who are in a little bit of disarray with the firing of their coach and their GM, but they still have the best player in the world. They have Jamal Murray back. The new interim coach, David Alderman, seems like he's doing a good job so far. It's been a interesting road. Buy or sell that they can still, with those advantages, get to the Western Conference Finals.
Oh, this is the hardest one. I want to come out and be sassy and say, hey, we're just talking about Milwaukee West, easy. But I mean, too much experience. They won a championship, obviously, just a couple years ago, and I just think the West outside of Oklahoma City is too flawed for me to confidently say Nikola Jokic can't go supernova. Jamal Murray, I know coming off an injury, but he can't find his groove and go supernova, and they make it back to a conference finals. I could not see them getting further than that, but by the skin of their teeth, I'm going to buy it.
I would agree. I'm still going to give the best player in the world a chance. We've seen it too much through NBA history that whenever you have a guy like Jokic, all bets are off of how far you can take this NBA journey. Another interesting West team whose footing is still going to be decided today, but Golden State. Buy or sell with all that's at stake today, where they could go from a 3-6 matchup, that they could go to the play, and they could go all these different directions. Buy or sell that for this team that got put together really at the trade deadline, a successful postseason is just simply winning a round.
Oh, okay. Interesting twist on it. I'm gonna sell that. I think they've been too good since the All-Star break. They've been 20-6 since the All-Star break, 3rd in net rating, 7th in offense, best defense in basketball since the All-Star break. Jimmy Butler is like weirdly like I love the way I think it's Jason Timpf. I just listened to him on a podcast. I love the way he phrased it with Jimmy. Like he's not really doing the star stuff you expect when you hear a name like Jimmy Butler in terms of shot making, only shooting 35% from mid-range, worst he shot from mid-range since 2019, only shooting 29% from 3. And yet he does everything else so incredibly well. Like his IQ has fit in brilliantly with Steph, with Draymond, 100th percentile in drawn fouls, shooting 88% from the line. The defense has been very solid. He has elevated this team to a point where I think they have every right to be upset if they don't make the conference finals. I do think matchups will dictate that. Going to be a real challenge for them if they potentially have to play the Lakers in the first round, even if they match up decently with the Lakers. That being said, like you have Steph, you have Jimmy. It's not a total failure because you obviously have won 4 championships in the last decade, and I think anything at this point is gravy if you are a Warriors fan. I just think this team is good enough to get there, so I'm gonna sell that.
So I understand that they have been great since the All-Star break, and they've been awesome. Your points are completely valid. I'll buy it just because I think that the best they can do is 3-6 with the Lakers. The worst they can do would, I think, get them a playoff round win that they wouldn't feel satisfied with if they went to the play-in and then became the second 2-7 matchup and beat the Rockets. Beating a young Rockets team wouldn't be some victory lap for Steph and for the guys who've accomplished what they've accomplished. But the reason I'm buying it is, in all likelihood, to do more than one round, you're going to have to beat Luka Doncic in the playoffs, LeBron, Reeves, and their complementary of players who I think fit really well together. I think that's a very tough test, to where if you did go to the play-in after tonight's games, and you did beat the Rockets, and then you got beat by the by the Lakers. To me, I'd have a really hard time criticizing Golden State or saying that it was a failure or saying it was anything less than a positive. So I'm going to buy it just on that notion of I wouldn't condemn them for not making the West Finals if they only won one series against the Rockets and then lost to the Lakers. But I totally would think that inside that room and inside that fan base, that wouldn't be good enough. It's just from the outside looking in, that's kind of where I'm at on the Golden State Warriors. We'll keep playing by or sell. We'll keep doing top playoff storylines and so much more coming up on today's Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, I want to say right now, but good friends over at DoorDash, check it out today because NBA fans get ready. When they swish, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score with a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more points during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Go check it out today because if you stay up tonight watching the games as they end kind of they're going to end kind of midday-ish, and it might throw off how you prep for your week and maybe forget your lunch the next day at work on Monday as you're trying to pick your bracket. No need to worry. You can order from DoorDash with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you can save even more with this exclusive NBA offer by signing up for DoorDash Dash Pass to be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more points in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. You just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating locations. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms and conditions apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's Gavin Schall, host of Locked On Knicks. We're here every Saturday night. Can't wait for the next Saturday night whenever we're going to be covering NBA playoff games, including who I assume will be your New York Knicks because they're going to not be predicated on the play and they'll probably get that Saturday slot. But Gavin, let's keep playing by ourselves for a second and then let's talk about what's at stake today in the NBA conversation, the last ever regular season game for the 24-25 season. Buy or sell, let's shift back over to the East. The Pistons are lively to upset your New York Knicks. Do you buy the idea that they're going to be able to pull off an actual series win?
This is a painful buy, but it just I would not favor them. I would say it's very much in play right now. The Knicks are free fall would be strong given that they did very well without Jalen Brunson over 15 games. They went 9-6. But in the 4 games since Jalen Brunson has come back, there have been some high highs, like going up on the Celtics, being in control of that game, taking a 23-point lead on most of the Cavaliers. No Donovan Mitchell, but also no Karl-Anthony Towns in that game. But the way the Knicks have finished these games, like falling apart down the stretch against the Celtics, against the Cavs, against the Pistons, have brought up some old concerns where it felt like at times this season, like the offense in end of game scenarios has been, all right, Jalen Brunson, like go pull a rabbit out of the hat. And more often than not, he's statistically had one of the best clutch seasons in NBA history. But like, I don't think that gets it done consistently in the playoffs. And it's also just not leveraging the fact that this team gave up 7 picks over the summer to acquire a surplus of offensive talent. And you're not fully maximizing Mikal Bridges. You're not fully maximizing Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby. In those scenarios, Tom Thibodeau continues to not lean into what should be this team's best lineups. If you were going to maximize Karl-Anthony Towns, you probably want to play 5 out, or maybe you'd want to play double big with Mitchell Robinson, take advantage of the fact that he can space the floor as a supersized power forward like the Timberwolves did a year ago. Instead of doing that, they play Josh Hart a ton. And that's essentially getting the worst of both worlds. Even though I love Josh Hart as a player, I just think he's been like grossly overtaxed this season. So Rylan, as you could tell, I could go on about this all day. I'll quickly say on Detroit, last 52 games, I believe 5th in the NBA in net rating, top 10 defense, top 10 offense. Again, really young team, very little playoff experience. All those caveats are necessary, but they are tough. They are connected. I don't think they have nearly the ceiling that the Knicks have, but unlike the Knicks, they've actually discovered their ceiling. So I think there's a world where they could come out and beat the Knicks.
I'm going to stick to my guns, even though you make a very compelling argument. I'm going to sell the idea that the Pistons can win the series. I think that this series could be the one to watch, though. If you're someone who loves defense, loves griminess, wants that early 2000s basketball, I could see that being the case in this series where it's physical play, it's connective play, and every game goes down to the wire. I just think that home court advantage matters. I think that the experience matters from New York's side, and they're going to be able to get this first round series win. Not easily. It's not going to be a pushover. So try to not kill me, Detroit, for this one. But I don't think that they're ready yet to win a playoff series, especially whenever they have massive games in the Garden. How games are differently played and officiated in the playoffs, I think could hurt some for Detroit as well, seeing it for the first time. But still, what a season from Detroit if this is the end. And you made some great points of how they could actually get a win. I think that both teams would suffer the same fate against the Boston Celtics, which brings us to our next buy or sell. Gavin, all due respect to the Thunder, all due respect to the Cavs, buy or sell, Celtics still the title favorites.
Yeah, I would say I think clear cut is offensive, given that, as you know, the Oklahoma City Thunder just set the NBA record for best net rating ever. But in my mind, I had Boston over Oklahoma City as my preseason pick, and I haven't seen enough to push me off that. I just love the diversity of options Boston has, and like they built essentially a perfect basketball team, right? Five guys who can pass, dribble, shoot. Jason Tatum is one of the 4 or 5 best players in the world, and 5 guys who are exceptional defensively. If Kristaps Porzingis goes out, which is always a possibility, I can definitely see a world where Oklahoma City could beat them. I can definitely see a world where Oklahoma City could beat them, even if they're totally healthy. But Boston's been there. They've done it. I still want to see how Chet and J-Dub translate to the playoffs for Oklahoma City. I have some concerns about just the secondary scoring for them in high leverage games that I don't have for Boston.
Yeah, I'm totally buying it as well. I think that the Celtics should be the title favorites until proven otherwise, because even for as good as the Cavs and the Thunder have been, if it goes that way, where it goes chalk, so to say, and it's Thunder in the finals as they're the 1 seed in the West, and it's Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals as they're the 1 seed in the East, I still think that Boston beats both of them right now, and they'd be able to have all that experience to lean on, plus all the talent to lean on. I mean, this is a team that can go pound for pound for both teams in the talent department and surpass some teams in the talent department as well. Like, they're still awesome, and they are going to be, to me, the title favorites for this NBA playoff bracket, and they shouldn't really get tested a ton on their way to the most important games of the season. But Gavin, we have one more day of the regular season, and so much is unknown. Now in the East, it's all no. You're ready to do your preview shows with Koo right now. Everything's set.
Literally, we did one last week. That's how known it's been.
But in the West, everything's up for stakes, it feels like. I mean, we only have the solidification of the Thunder at the 1, the Rockets at the 2, and the Lakers at the 3. Mm-hmm. And so what's at stake today in game 82, the final day of the regular season?
So it's everything in the West, right? Outside of, to your point, the top 3 seeds being locked in. The simplest scenario, the one that we thought was going to play out, was, I'll put it on the screen. Shout out to our guy Cone for tweeting this out. Wolves beating the Jazz, which seems like a certainty because Utah is very, very bad, and they are sitting everyone that is good for the most part on their team. So the Wolves should win. And the assumption that I think we all made was that the Rockets, because they sat everyone the last 2 games, are going to sit everyone again, given that they're locked into the 2 seed, and the Denver Nuggets would cruise, and we'd have the Nuggets as the 4, the Wolves kind of up for grabs, and everything would come down to essentially a playoff game before the playoffs. Warriors and Clippers, shout out to the Spurs and Harrison Barnes for making that one possible. But now it came out today, Rylan, that the Houston Rockets actually intend to play all their guys. The important caveat there that we were talking about pre-show is might only be for quarter, might only be for half, but there's also a world where Houston looks up and down the Western Conference and says, hey, outside of Memphis, we think Denver is clearly the weakest team. We think they're clearly the team that we have the best chance of beating. And like, given what we've seen post All-Star break, where I think every other team in that mix, like Minnesota, Warriors are 3rd in net rating post All-Star break. Clippers are 4th. Timberwolves are 5th. Why wouldn't you want to play the Denver Nuggets, who are 20th in that statistic since the All-Star break? Maybe Nikola Jokic is the only answer you need. But if there's a world where Houston said, hey, that's the easiest scenario for us, let's go make it happen, they could play their guys the whole game.
They could, and they do have the week off heading into game 1, as they've earned the right to totally eliminate themselves from needing to play in the play-in. And then there's that balancing act of how much run do you want these guys to have, like we mentioned, the quarter or the half, or do you just want them to play a game because they're going to be put on ice until Saturday, and there's nothing that you can really do in practice in that time. Well, you can practice hard and you can try to stay sharp. Nothing replicates NBA basketball, so you want to play them a little bit in the final game. That puts an interesting wrinkle into this Denver team, who, like, this is the same Denver team that's gotten swept by the Washington Wizards. And like this team is not taking care of their business enough this season. It's why they're in this predicament to start with. Like if the Rockets, obviously they're going to start their regular guys because they're not out. So those guys are going to start. If they build a 10, 15 point lead and then they sit their guys at halftime, that could be that could just be a loss for Denver if they can't find a way to come back for a team who's not been able to exploit weaker teams throughout this season so far, which then throws a wrench in everything. The simplest way though is if Denver wins, they're the 4, and then all sights go to that Clippers and Warriors game, and all these games in the West will start at the same time at 2:30. All the games in the East will start at 2:30 Central and then noon Central for the teams in the East. So these will all be happening simultaneously. So it's hard to have the chess matches in game. That's why I wonder if you're right on this signal being that the Rockets just want to get the win, and they know what chaos it'll create if they win, but they're comfortable with that chaos because you're not going to be able to turn it on and off depending on other scores because they're all happening at the exact same time as you're locked into your particular game. So I think that the biggest thing would just be they feel pretty comfortable having any scenario play out. But if Denver wins, they're the 4, period. There's no other scenario that can happen where Denver can win and they're not be the 4. If they lose, though, they could slip down to the play-in tournament. They could slip down only to the 5 line if they lose and other things happen. So a lot comes into the air. The biggest thing that changes, though, is that Clippers Warriors game. If you're looking for one game to watch, it will be Clippers Warriors because you know that that's going to change things. And throughout that game, they'll be telling you in real time how these things are changing. But it'll be very fascinating because Gavin, right now we look at the screenshot of the standings. The play-in tournament is Minnesota, Memphis, Sacramento, Dallas. And as someone who covers a team sitting to benefit from the play-in tournament, this is the better option than the possibility that like a team like the Warriors would lose that first play-in game and then come be the 8 seed. That's a much tougher 8 seed than we've ever seen before. Same with the Clippers as well. So what's funny is the standings right now today, before we start game 82, seem like the least likely scenario to still be the standings tomorrow at this time when we're wrapping up the night and finally have that bracket in our hands. Coming up, let's talk about the play-in tournament. Let's talk about the top storylines from the NBA playoffs all coming up. But first, I want to say right now, but good friends over at Game Time, folks, go check out Game Time today because there's nothing like the energy of a live game. Whether you're catching a last-minute MLB showdown or soaking up the excitement of the NBA matchup, the best way to get tickets is Game Time. It's great to use because Game Time makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. The prices actually drop the closer to the event that you get. With all-in pricing, you get a total upfront cost, no surprise fees at checkout. You're going to love their price guarantee, lowest price guarantee. I love the view from your seat. If you're going to travel around to some of these playoff games that's on your bucket list, but you've never been to the arena before, it's okay. You can go on their map and see exactly where your seat is before you buy. Plus, the no surprise fees at checkout is a wonderful thing because we've all been there before on the alternative. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, use code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDONNBA, for $20 off your first purchase. Go download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night Podcast. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's Gavin Schall, host of Locked On Knicks. Gavin, how do you take in the play-in as a primarily East guy? And the Eastern Conference play-in has not been all that interesting throughout the history of this play-in tournament. The West, I feel like, has been more interesting by nature of just having better teams. Do you like the play-in tournament? Do you think that it's kind of ran its course as we got through some of those wacky years due to the pandemic and due to shifting things around? Like, do you still like this element, or are you kind of over it?
Yeah, so not at all an NBA Cup guy. So I think that's an important caveat to show that I'm not biased on this. I've enjoyed the play-in for the most part. I do think there should be a window in there where like 9, 10 have to be within 3 games, 4 games. Like there is an 8-game gap between the Grizzlies and the Kings right now. And like in a hyper competitive Western Conference, I think the top 8 should just be the top 8. Like I don't see any reason why you're rewarding the Kings for like falling apart since the De'Aaron Fox trade and really like in a continual fall all season. I don't know why you should reward the Dallas Mavericks for making the worst trade of all time. And then not that I'm happy anyone got hurt, but maybe rightfully being cursed by the basketball gods to some extent for the rest of the year. Like why are we giving those teams like a chance and knocking off whoever falls to 7, who would be extremely deserving, and even the Memphis Grizzlies, who've like had their issues this season, but have generally dominated like the bad teams in the NBA all year. So that I think is a little ridiculous when you're within a couple of games. Like, sure, not that I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to watch every second of Chicago, Miami, or Orlando, Atlanta, but like I think there's no harm in having those games when everyone's roughly equally mediocre.
Yeah, I like it for that very thing. To me, it only like hurts a top seed. Like the Thunder won't find out who they play until Friday. There's gonna be 4 different outcomes. The 2 seeds are a bit easier because they know of 2 teams instead of 4, and they get to know their opponent after the first day of the NBA play-in tournament. The Thunder have to wait till the Friday, and then the teams get to play a couple of games to ramp up for that Sunday. Like we said, there's no better duplicate for NBA live bullets than playing in NBA games. So that's a little bit of an advantage, but also a disadvantage because you could also see injuries like the Pelicans did. I mean, whenever the Zion was playing for the Pelicans in the play-in tournament, he looked incredible. They lose him in the play-in tournament. They go play OKC. They get swept last year in a non-competitive series. So I like it. It's also just something to fill the calendar, which I think is a part of it. Like it's something you can sell to TV partners, but also something that we can watch and we can enjoy and we can make Locked On NBA game nights about. I'm never going to be opposed to extra basketball.
Can I throw something at you? Are you a fan of, because I've been advocating for this for years, that teams should be allowed to pick their opponent? Like OKC should be like, which I guess would necessitate the elimination of the play-in, but like OKC could get the 1 seed. And maybe if you're top 4 seed, you're not eligible to be drafted. But like there's a world where, like to your point, like the Clippers somehow fall to the 8th seed, or the Warriors somehow fall to the 8th seed. Like Oklahoma City, when you win 67 games, like I feel like you should be able to look at that and say, I'm okay. We're going to play Memphis, or we're going to play the Kings or the Mavs if they sneak in. Like I do still, and not an issue in the East, but in the West, like to test that there's a scenario where Oklahoma City finishing 15 games ahead of everyone could theoretically play like the second best team in the West in the first round.
Yeah, I'd be very in favor of that. I think that not only just like for the Thunder this year, because they could really be hurt by this, like really, really, really be hurt by this, but just that we love drama. Like, let's face it.
Yeah. Make
the
it
NBA,
personal. Like, can you imagine the tweets we'd get from the team that got drafted? Like, you were getting like the Trailblazers back in the day. You don't think Damian Lillard's tweeting bet in all caps when the 1 seed takes him? Like, I think the WWE element is really fun.
I mean, the NBA is the biggest drama club in America. Like, it's just all about the drama. It's all about the storylines. It's all about the beef. And it's like, it would, like, if you draft the Memphis Grizzlies, who I think that the Thunder would draft in this case scenario,
John's launching some grenades at you. You're getting some grenades.
Maybe literally. And you just got to duck and cover. And it's just going to be, it's just going to be a rocky ride. Like, it would be so much fun to see, like, the Thunder draft a team and then Ja's social media posts. Then what if he gets hot game 1 and drops 40 and wins game 1? And now you just got to sit in it for a couple of days before game 2, really stewing over, you drafted this team, they beat you. How are you going to respond in the back and forth of it all? Of that would be extremely great content. Now, is it enough content to fill, a 6-hour block on a Tuesday and a Wednesday and a Friday for your TV partners? No, but it would still be drama nonetheless, and it would still help the sport. I love that idea. I think that it gets a weird cutoff. What do you think about just eliminating conferences and just 1 through 16? That I think that is good in theory if we were playing 2K, but the travel issues, time zone issues, it opens up a lot of Pandora's box, I think.
Look, I'm an Eastern Conference guy. I have no interest in doing that right now. Maybe if Cooper Flag comes to the East, we can reconvene next year.
Yeah, that actually is a great point. Send Cooper to the East just because there's too many good talents in the West. Gavin, give me rapid fire your number 1 storyline of the playoffs. If you could know this second how someone's or some team's journey ends, who or what would it be and why?
Wow, that is a great question. I'm going to say it's what I hinted at earlier. Like I want to see the tertiary options on Oklahoma City and how they come through. It is not a fair doubt in the sense that they've obviously come through all season. And I think I'm looking at a lot of like where Chet struggled last year and where J-Dub struggled last year. And J-Dub, like I was telling you before we started, just in a press conference room with him here in Phoenix, and like he went into detail like about how much the game has slowed down for him this year, like how much more comfortable he feels on the ball, how much he's diversified, like his ability to get to his spots and actually like hit shots once he gets to those spots. Like I just want to see it because he is still really young. That team is incredibly good, but is really young across the board. And like I'm so fascinated, like if it's the Lakers or if it's the Warriors and these like really savvy veteran teams that have been there and have done that and think they can come in and mind a 4-letter word I can't say, the Thunder. Like I want to see how Oklahoma City holds up against that, because we saw the Lakers like beat them once and give them a really competitive fight in a second game. And Luka, like if that is the Western Conference Finals, like he's not going to be afraid in any sense of the word. LeBron obviously is not going to be afraid in any sense of the word. And can Oklahoma City, like if the Lakers come out and Luka scores 40 in game 1 and LeBron scores 30 and Austin Reeves scores 25 and the Lakers get a big win, like does Oklahoma City, who's been so mentally tough and resilient and dominant this entire season, do they have counters to that? I promise I'm not just sucking up to you since you're the Thunder guy. Like I'm deeply, deeply interested to see how that plays out.
I think that you're right, that they were chief among like the interesting storylines. My number one would be Denver. And it would be a number one with the Bullets. I would agree with your case for the Thunder. We just don't know how Jokic is reacting to all of this, because like it feels like of all the star power players, we don't have our finger on the pulse of Jokic's like inner thoughts the way we do with other stars who kind of wear it on their sleeves, so to say. But like if Denver flames out in the first round and your coach is gone, your front office is gone, obviously your role players aren't good enough, your draft pick situation is not lustrous at all, like where does Denver go from here? How do they get better around Jokic? Where does Jokic go from here? Has things ran its course for him in Denver? He's accomplished a championship. He's given them a lot, and they haven't really given him a ton around him to work with. They have some bad contracts that I don't know how you move and get fair value or hopefully for them better value to get better from these spots. Like we can talk what we want to about Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray. Like you can't just trade them to trade them. You've got to get someone better than those guys. And who's going to be willing to give you a better piece for your roster than those guys currently present? So they're kind of just stuck in this way of like, if they have a bad playoffs and a bad playoff experience, who knows what happens? Like it's the NBA drama club for a reason. Like anything can happen. And I think that that's the most interesting part. And on the flip side, if they go out there and say, you know what, we have the best player in the world. Michael Porter Jr. got hot. Jamal Murray got hot. We went to the West Finals or better. Then everything's fine. And you kind of stabilize yourself a little bit and you can make those marginal moves and still feel really good about your core. I think that they have the biggest swing of they have a very low floor. They still have a very high ceiling. They can swing anywhere in between those outcomes to really level this off at how their future goes.
Yeah, I'm incredibly intrigued by them. I'm sure you also saw that great Tom Habistro article this week highlighting how Nikola Jokic is the only ever MVP in the first 10 years of his career to never have an all-star teammate, never have an all-NBA teammate, never have an all-defensive teammate. And the numbers for the other guys, like Larry and Magic, both had like 30 total in those three categories. Like LeBron's had a bunch, KD's had a bunch, Steph's had a bunch, Kobe had a pretty good amount, Steve Nash had a great amount. And I think that was a little misleading in the sense that Jamal Murray has had multiple playoff runs where he has been a clear-cut top 15, if not top 10 player in the league, and he is a major playoff riser. And I do think, like, particularly, like, if Murray does not tear his ACL, I think the respect of the talent of that group is very different, because I think there's a world where they had won 2 titles in a row or two out of 3. But he did tear his ACL, and Jokic has never really had adequate help. And he does not seem like the type to ask out. But if he did, like, it would be like based just on that, the most justified ask out of any superstar in NBA history. So I'm really intrigued. I am not super confident in their ability to pivot. They're really tied down with money. We saw the report today that they're set on never trading Michael Porter Jr. because he played 5 games at Missouri for whatever reason. So I'm not really confident in their future. And I'm curious how Jokic reacts to that.
It'll be very fun to figure it out. We'll be back here next Saturday night to recap the first wave of games from the NBA playoffs, and we'll obviously have everything in hand from the regular season and the play-in tournament as well. Go check out Gavin Schall at Locked On Knicks. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. And until next time, be good and be good to one another.